Good morning, brothers and sisters of the media. Welcome again. This is the special press conference that we're holding this morning, and you're going to be hosted executive members of the National Democratic Congress, led by the political leader and party leader. So we're going to move directly over to Senator Burkett's point in time. Of course, after the briefing would entertain your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Randall, our Public Relations Officer. And let me first of all thank the members of the media for your quick and your agreement to join us this morning at this extraordinary press conference. We had called you last Monday for a typical standard press conference day, and based on some information that has come to light, some further considerations, additional considerations, to call the media again with you on this occasion. So we want to say that, first of all, a pleasant good morning, members of the media. We have invited you here today to be in our position in relation to the proposed, just contained in our latest press statement yesterday. We have made the point repeatedly that we consider the reform of the Constitution of Grenada to be a very serious matter, not to be taken lightly. The National Democratic Congress has said repeatedly that we support meaningful constitutional reform. It's reasonably possible to arrive at a package constitution on the basis of national consensus, party political agenda. The new National Party administration has effectively hijacked the Constitutional Reform Advisory Committee, the CRAC, to select a few members of the committee to implement its own politically motivated reform agenda. The Constitutional Reform agenda is driven mainly by a deep desire by the Prime Minister to salvage his legacy, while pretending to do otherwise. Cabinet ministers have taken an authoritarian approach to the reform process. At the very outset, that the door is closed before the recommendations. They selected a small team of supporters of constitutional reform who, perhaps in a genuine desire to bring about constitutional change, while trying to satisfy the demands of the government, adopted practices and procedures that were wholly inconsistent with established norms and international standards. As a result, the approach taken to the constitutional reform process by underhand dealings and smoke and mirrors. Our party's genuine efforts to ensure that the proposed changes to the Constitution reflect the recommendations constitutional review commissions and bodies were arrogantly rejected. In fact, in a few instances, even the recommendations submitted to the Cabinet by the Constitutional Review Advisory Committee itself, after consultation with the people, the Cabinet, with no good reason or explanation given for doing so. It was for these reasons that the National Democratic Congress took the position that we could not support the constitutional reform process in the manner in which it was being conducted. The problems associated with the approach taken to constitutional reform are numerous and extensive. They can be grouped into the following categories. The procedure followed for choosing the items which would be included on the referendum ballot was seriously flawed. Recommendations that were made by the committee to the Cabinet after consultations with the people were rejected by the Cabinet without giving any reason. 3. Recommendations made by previous constitutional reform commissions and bodies to amend the Constitution were rejected by the Cabinet despite the continuing desire of the Grenadian people to have these matters addressed. In some cases, recommendations now being proposed for amending the Constitution are fundamentally different. Previous constitutional reform commissions and bodies to amend the Constitution, a reason is given. 5th, the issue of constitutional reform as a genuine national issue, free of partisan politics. The administration is playing hide and seek with the referendum, even with the referendum date itself. While the chairman of the committee has held a press conference on July 29, 2016, that the referendum will take place on October 27, 2016, he has no lawful authority to do so. This is well known and understood by ministers and the committee chairman. This committee is merely an advisory one, no status or authority. In all Commonwealth countries, such an announcement is made by the Prime Minister of the country after consultations with the Governor General. This is seen in the recent referenda in Scotland, Bermuda, and the United Kingdom. In this case, not even a member of the Cabinet Minister was in attendance when the announcement was made. Clause. General can cause a referendum on the Constitution to be held. Thus, by issuing a referendum writ under the public seal of the state, saying that the referendum shall be held. Weeks since Dr. Alexis has made his announcement, and to date, the Governor General has not issued any writ for holding a referendum in Grenada. Changes to the Constitution have not been sufficiently the voting population, and the majority of Grenadians still do not know and do not understand what they are being asked to vote for or against. We regard as a dereliction of duty the failure or refusal on the part of the NMP administration to adequately explain to the voting population and to the nation as a whole exactly what changes are proposed to the Constitution, what will these changes mean for our democracy, and what is expected of them on referendum date. We note that the government of Grenada has received a substantial sum of money from the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP, about the constitutional reform. We are impressed by the leadership, maturity, and example of Prime Minister Gaston Brown of Antigua, who initially had scheduled a referendum on the Antigua Constitution for October 27, 2016. After hearing the call of the opposition leader to postpone the referendum date so as to allow for further consultation with the people, agreed to postpone the referendum for a period of 6 months, 2017, so as to allow for further consultations. We consider the reform of the Constitution to be a very serious matter, which must not be taken lightly. We were so concerned that we do not adopt a position inconsistent with the wishes and aspirations of the Grenadian people. An opinion poll in determining what the people wanted. Poll results, which was received only Tuesday last, indicate that while 5% of those polled said they supported all of the changes proposed, and 6% said they did not support any of the changes proposed, 13% of those polled indicated that they were not sure about their position. 3% said that they did not know enough about the changes to offer any comment. It reveals that 56%, 13 plus 43, of the persons polled confused or did not know or understand what is going on and what is expected of them. When asked whether they intended to vote on the issues in the referendum and referendum date, 34% indicated they intended to vote, 16% indicated they did not intend to vote, 10% indicated that they were not sure if they would vote. Sure, beyond doubt, is that the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique are not ready for a referendum on the reform of the Grenada Constitution. Politics with this process. We have said before that we would prefer to approach the reform of the Grenada Constitution on the basis of consensus. Instead, to employ strong-arm tactics. We will not be bullied into submission on this issue. We see as our duty to insist that all that is done in our supreme law is done with the full knowledge and participation of the Grenadian people and in accordance with their wishes and aspirations. That all that is done in relation to changing our supreme law is done in accordance with our constitution. That the laws that are passed in relation to holding the referendum are not inconsistent with the constitution, and that the procedures and practices that are adopted are correct and do not violate established laws, conventions, norms, and standards. Responsibility to educate and inform the population on what is taking place, what is wrong, and what is right. We regard it as our responsibility to encourage the voting population not to sit on the side, but to exercise their rights to help decide whether our constitution should be changed in the manner now proposed by the NNP administration. In the end, your vote for or against in the referendum won. In the end, against in the referendum must be based on whether you honestly believe that what has taken place and what is taking place at this time is in the best interests of our country as a modern democratic state. I actually call on the people to vote with their conscience on these matters. Statements in the Parliament. His mind, as he and his party now appear to be calling for a yes vote on all issues. Confidence in our people to do what is right for Grenada. We anticipate that they will not go along if they do not know and do not understand exactly what they are voting for, what are the changes that are proposed, and what they would mean for our country. They will not go along if they honestly believe that the procedures followed for choosing the items which would be included on the referendum ballot were fundamentally flawed. They will not go along if they realize that recommendations that were made by the committee itself to the cabinet of the people were rejected by the cabinet without giving any good reason for doing so. They will not go along if they believe that the recommendations made by previous constitutional reform commissions and bodies to amend the constitution were rejected by the cabinet continuing desire of the Grenadian people addressed. We anticipate that they will not go along if they conclude reflection. The recommendations now being proposed for amending the Constitution are fundamentally different from those made by previous Constitution reform commissions and bodies to amend the Constitution by the reason is given. We anticipate that they will not go along if they are convinced that instead of approaching the issue of constitutional reform as a genuine national issue, in politics, the Keith Mitchell administration is playing with the referendum, even on the referendum date itself, so as to gain some cheap political advantage. Calling on the NDC to openly call for a no vote. Reasons for that call and share the frustrations with what has happened and is happening, we will respect the right of the people to vote with their conscience. Tell them no, they will vote no. That some persons may be of the view that calling on the people to vote their conscience is not sufficiently conclusive. While we understand and respect that view, we do not share the view. There are some issues on which leaders must trust the people to exercise their good judgment. The supreme law of the land is changed is one such issue. In many countries, where a referendum is called on a matter or in matters that are highly contentious or controversial, the political parties leave it to their members and the voters as a whole. We have seen this with the votes on abortion, with the votes on capital punishment. We even saw it in the recent Brexit vote. We must have confidence in the judgment of our people, the right to choose. Thank you very much. That is the statement that we offer, and we are questions you have.
Just for clarity, what the party is calling people to go vote but vote the conscience? Is that one of the party's positions?
Well, our position is if a referendum is called, vote their conscience. We can say go vote because as far as we are concerned, no referendum to share.
Well, yeah, obviously can't do it if there's not one. Imagine there's one. What will the executive members do? As an example.
Well, no, I don't think, Mr. Mark, that I can share with you my conscience at this moment. I don't expect you.
I can.
No. I don't expect you would. And I don't want to press the point on anybody. As you know, your conscience is your free will. And I think what we want to say is precisely not make statements as a party to vote one way or another. And if I were to make a statement or somebody else on this table were to make a statement, that this is the party's position, we don't want to confuse anybody. We simply want to say, we respect the conscience of the people, go to vote with their conscience if the referendum is called.
Just for clarity, look about the poll. Could you tell me what is the sample size and when was this conducted, the poll, and who conducted the poll?
The poll was conducted by Mr. Don Anderson of Jamaica. Don Anderson of Jamaica. Size was about 800 people. I cannot tell you the exact dates when it was done, but I know it was done last month.
Will it be released in totality like a document?
I cannot say at this stage. What we have given you are the top lines of the survey. And for the purposes of for which it was commissioned, this is really what we were trying to find.
Yes, as an issue of poll, I understand that there is also a recent poll that was done by Mr. Dubai and company. Revealed, in fact, it said 700 persons were quizzed on the question, and the results are 72% never saw the Constitution, 82% never read the Constitution, 75% not know anything about the process of the referendum. I don't know if you are aware of the poll, the members of on the table are aware of that poll. In your opinion, suggest that the time is right for this process, for referendum?
Well, I want to be very careful not to comment on a poll that I have not seen. You know, I have not seen Mr. Bernard's poll. I know that Mr. Bernard does a poll around July every year. As part of his marketing poll, it's an annual poll. I have not seen or heard the results. I would not be terribly surprised if 70-something% of the population have not read the Constitution. You know, document what has been said, but to the best of my knowledge, no one has ever undertaken a systematic education of the population on the Grenada Constitution since independence. So I would not be terribly surprised with that.
About the, so you said substantial sum of money was given, was paid to by, do you have any ideas to the substantial amount?
I don't have exact numbers, and I don't know. That's precisely why I did not want to misspeak. The understanding I had initially was that the sum of 200,000 US was going to be made, and then I heard the numbers had changed. I don't have that information, and therefore I did not want to brandish particulars. The exact amount, but I do know, based on a meeting that we had here with the UNDP, that they intended to support the referendum process by financing, paying for some aspect of education along the way.
If I could ask Mr. Thomas a question, because I think he was a member of the committee for a long while. Yeah, Mr. Thomas, give us your own impressions, having been in the committee and other stands by the same, how things worked out as far as you're concerned.
As I have always supported also with the party, but we support meaningful constitutional reform. Reform as reforming the constitution for the better governance of the country. Right now, as I said, a patient that is terminally ill and at the same time a common cold, should not neglect the terminal aspect of the patient and focus on the common cold, and that is what is happening here. For instance, proportional representation is something that high on the agenda. Most people call for proportional representation, but it has been ignored. Changing commissioner of police to chief of police, or the other way around. So this is the thing I'm saying, that we support reform, but we want to see, don't permit the patient, don't ignore. On 2 occasions, we had a parliament without any representation from the opposition. That is fundamental to us as a people. And the previous commissions called for it. The Fred Phillips Commission called for it. The Lyle St. Paul Commission called for it. Why has it been ignored now? If you're committed to reform, let us do meaningful reform. The governance of the country, the fixed date for elections. We call for fixed date in the Constitution, not a fixed date. With. We want a fixed date instance every second Tuesday in election. That's what we've been calling for. You know, so as I say, we support reform, but you should not patients that is terminally ill forget the terminal aspect of the patient and focus on the common cold. That is what's happening here. And we should not promote this. We should do meaningful reform.
So what's happening after 27 as far as you're concerned?
As far as I'm concerned,
Yeah,
but I don't know what's going to happen up to. I don't know if there's going to be an election. If there's going to be a referendum, I don't know. Officially, I'm not sure if it's going to be.
But let's assume there's one, because it's not legally only one. Assuming there's one.
Well, then people vote I see people vote according to the conscience, or if they feel. But I'm saying that we should advocate and promote meaningful constitutional reform.
Thank you, Mr. Mark.
Hello. Trisha being NDC. You spoke about the people on the referendum, and you said people cannot vote on what they don't understand. But what is the NDC doing to educate the people? So,
Like here right now.
but this is a one-off thing,
Not one-off, it's an education exercise. We held a press conference last Monday. We issued a press release just yesterday. We are here before you today, right? We are the voice and you are the loudspeakers, right? In other words, help us to project our voices. So when we come and call you, please use the medium that you have to help us to get our word out, because we don't have unlimited resources to educate the public. Sometimes we make statements, they're not even covered, on these critical issues. So we are trying our best.
okay, so as it relates to the bills, like the 7 bills to be voted on, as it relates to explaining what is it like, like the crack that have like meeting.
The crack has money. The
Yeah,
United Nations Development Program, I said it in the document, they paid for that. Yeah, the government is the state. It has the access to the state resources to do it, even if it got no money. You're an opposition party. You can barely have a statement in the media.
So here's the opportunity now to get some free promotions.
I'm sorry?
Here's the opportunity now to get some free promotions.
What is going to give us the
yeah.
Which of your media outlets?
Tell
us, please.
Okay. What is the party's position? Guide me, guide the nation.
Yeah.
What is the party's position on the CCG, for example?
Well,
so educate us. Was it dangerous? I think they are dangerous, but let me know what the party says about it.
We have said the process of constitutional reform, right? It is not necessary for me to go through every bill today and tell you on each line what is or is not, General statements. If I were to take each of these groups of categories that I've sat down and explained to you, it would take a very long time. That's why I've simply lumped them into categories. For example, I had this one heading. In some instances, the recommendations after, on the insistence of the public, the committee made recommendations to the cabinet of certain things that should be included, and the cabinet rejected them. I did not go into details there, as I did not go into details on the CCJ. But what I have in mind, for example, is that the committee recommended to the cabinet to include on the referendum ballot a provision that that the citizen should have a right to recall the parliamentary representative. That was rejected. I can give you a second example. The committee recommended to the cabinet, let the college of parliamentarians choose the governor general. The prime minister doing it alone. The cabinet initially pretended that they gave instructions to the drafting team to go ahead and draft that bill. The bill was drafted. The press conference that was held, the post-cabinet briefing that was held before the bills were filed in the parliament in December, a statement was given saying, we're not doing it anymore without any reason. I'm not trying here to give you all the details on all the bills. All I'm saying is, we've done them in very broad categories, and we can share with you all of the many documents. Please don't forget, Mr. Mark, you've given 2 or 3 national addresses on this question, right? And this is part of the answer, as well as published some official statements on the issue. So we have not been silent in fairness. Spoken as best we could, and that's why we say here, we have done everything possible. In December of last year, we said we want to see this happen on the basis of national consensus. We called on the Prime Minister to postpone taking these bills through the Parliament, to invite the Organization of American States or the CARICOM Secretariat or the International Institute for the Advancement of Democracy, one of these bodies, to facilitate some kind of ground that if we can talk about it with the help of an outside party, perhaps we can all agree how to go forward. We understand that it is a sensitive issue. So let us talk about it, because we want it, you want it, but let us do it on the basis of national consensus. So I think, in fairness to everybody, we have done what we can, what we could have done in relation to this matter.
But we have a real life situation. You call for the postponement of the vote.
I'm sorry?
You're calling for the postponement of the vote.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, let's assume the vote. Okay, let's assume, instead of what to say, the vote takes place. Let's go on that assumption. What do we do now? Because you have 6 things in front of you, 7 other number is. What do we do with it? You have those things in front of us. What do we do about it?
That question, in the statement I presented, and in direct answer to a question that we put before. Ms. Paul, we are saying to the people, vote with their conscience. It's a simple matter. That's what you're going to do. And you need to quiz the government. You need to quiz the government. You need, you hear us carry update to me, no? You need to quiz the government. Ask them a few questions. Try and find out what did they do, because all that we are doing here is the information that has come to light, the position that we've taken before. And I'm not surprised to hear that another independent poll done by a Canadian person is coming up with similar information. The ball is in the court of the government to decide what do we do now if this information is correct. Tell you the positions. They are the ones holding the cutlass by the hand.
How can the people vote with their conscience if they don't understand and don't know what we're not?
I'm sorry?
How can the people vote with their conscience if they don't understand or they don't know what's going on?
If you ask me whether Grenada should nuclear bombs or not, nuclear bombs are, I'm not going to vote yes, develop nuclear bombs. I'll be free to exercise my conscience, but I'll be voting based on my lack of knowledge.
There was the issue raised by Mr. Roberts regarding the directive principles aspect of the Rights and Freedoms Bill. What I want to know is if we're for or against the directive principles, because it is my understanding that unlike the individual, right, as in my right to the freedom of speech and my right to life and whatnot, these principles are in keeping with the UN mandate and they are guidelines to the state. So therefore, the government that is in power is these principles. So they are to be guided to develop policies and, this sort of thing. From these principles, there's an issue about these laws are not enforceable. So I want to know what's really with the directive principle.
Now, I'll be very clear on this. Our party has taken a position, a vote of confidence in the Grenadian people, that the Grenadian people can use their conscience and make a decision. We have reached a stage in the debate where my personal opinion or the party taking a position either on the directive principles or on the name of state or so on, giving our position will be like saying, indicating to people what they should do. We are saying to the Canadian people, one, are you sufficiently well informed and understand what these directive principles are? If you do not understand, as in the example given by our party leader here, we do not expect you If you do not understand anything about directive principles, side of caution, and vote with your conscience, vote what your conscience dictates. So as of now, our position is we have placed in the hands of the Grenadian people in whom we are confident will do the right thing. The 27th, if there is a referendum, and on any call to vote or whatever, the Grenadian people will do what they know is right. They will vote for Green.
Yes, but the directive principles is one part of a bill. That bill has 3 parts. So if, let's say, for example, I agree with the human rights aspect, but I don't agree with the directive principles, am I to vote yes still? You understand? And like she was saying, my colleague Rachel was saying, you understand, if there is an issue with whatever it is, then you should explain. So how are you helping me understand how these principles are going to affect my life as an individual?
You know, it is interesting that I've been following the recent education program on the referendum. And it appears that the more it is explained, the more confused the people become. This is the situation.
As a well-read person, Vincent, more informed than most of us, what do you interpret by you as Vincent? So guide us.
So guide
Let's
I will answer that question to you as a person not in a position of the NDC.
Yeah, so talking as Vincent Roberts.
No, I cannot speak as Vincent Roberts when I am sitting at a press conference of the NDC.
Mr. Mark knows that very well.
Yeah,
but in your capacity as the chairman, can you explain to me the directive principles? So that to help me on you can.
A number of organizations have been funded by the UNDP. They have applied for and received funding. And I think if you listen to civil society who have not received or have not accepted, a good job is being done. A number of Claudia Joseph, a young lawyer, she's also speaking. The information is out there.
Okay.
And we want to also urge that you take a balanced approach here. I mean, if you think about it, the new National Party perhaps has more lawyers in its ranks than the NDC today. So when you make your request, if you don't get the answers you want from the NDC, you can also ask the NNP for clarification. The Attorney General is there are other people who can advise. We must be careful. What we're saying here today is that we don't want to be sitting here on a platform enunciating a position consistent with what we tell you is our position, yes? Which is, please allow to make your own choices, yes? If you need us or one of us to sit down and talk about a particular bill and what it means, I can try my best to the best I understand it. This press conference. Because really, I'm not here making pronouncements about the provisions of any one bill or the interpretation that the court is likely to give to any word in any bill. All that we're saying is, it seems clear to everyone, I'm not ready for this. And it is now for the government to decide.
Okay, Mr. Burke, my question is that CRAC is engaging in a number of consultations and promotions on referendum. So do you believe that by now on October 26th, the people would be ready or better have a better understanding of?
I really could not see. First of all, the available seem to be that it's not really consultations that are going on, but education. Yeah, there's a difference. Consultation means you're telling people something with a view to also getting their feedback to take it into account. I don't think that is what's going on.
So they started at 101 something consultation.
I don't know what this term consultation is used to mean, so I don't want to pass judgment. I'm simply saying a consultation and an education session are two different things. Yes, I'm sure you will agree with me. So, sufficient education have been done by October 27th? I don't.
Okay, so if Mr. Mark volunteered you like free advertisement here, so you get 7 days, 7 days. Would you be interested?
I don't know. I'm saying, have you spoken to the members of the committee? Are they being paid to do it? We can discuss that. You want to give me a contract? I don't know. I'm just saying, let's avoid too much of the theoreticals. You know, I'm happy to try and explain anything I can at the best of my ability, but I want us to try and understand where we are coming from. We don't force our views on people.
You mentioned the Antigua situation.
Sorry?
The Antigua situation. I'm aware of what's happening there. For example, both government and opposition say they support the idea point of view. And the opposition asked for more time because they don't want it to fail. This is different from the opposition in Grenada. They say, we need the government tonight.
I'm sorry?
We need the government on the issue. Even our people, we're not sure they on board with us, but our leadership team, we want it as leaders. Our people are there yet, so let's take a time to get our people there. That was the position.
Right. I'm assuming that both political parties in Grenada, we want meaningful constitution reform. Starting point as well. We want meaningful constitution reform. I have no reason to doubt or to question the new National Party in principle wants it. What I can say is, in practice, what we are seeing is it's driven by other considerations.
Yeah, let me ask a question, please. In this regard, I want to just shift from the trend to ask to use as an example. Let me ask Mr. Thomas, who was a member of the Constitutional Advice Reform Advisory. If you are aware, what discussion here in regards to not just a 2/3 majority, voting yes or no, and will pass or not pass, but if there is a threshold where, for example, if one person votes yes, nobody else vote, and that's 100%, so the bill can pass. Threshold that says 50% of the voting population must vote. Can be yes or no. That's the threshold. And I want to give you, I want to extend it by saying an example with Bermuda. Not too long ago, Bermuda had a referendum on the same-sex marriage issue. 2/3 majority. The result of that referendum says yes, says no. But because there's a threshold in place, they needed to have at least 30% of the voting population participating in that process. There was only 48.6% voting. So the question was not answered. I'm saying, in a case as we go into a referendum now, threshold discuss whereby we can guarantee and there's not even one person saying yes and the rest of the person saying, well, I'm voting, and that stands for the rest of the 109,000 people.
As far as I'm aware, I don't know if any threshold is 2/3. 2/3 of the persons who participated in the election. To succeed, you must get at least 2/3. As far as I am aware, I don't know of any threshold.
But do you think there should be a threshold? I mean,
well,
the example I gave, I mean, one person could vote and the rest everybody said no, that I'm voting.
That's a possibility. That was for amending the referendum law itself. That was for amendment to the referendum law.
Don't you think that should have been a discussion and an issue came up so that we can have participatory voting, not just voting?
Well, I see the point you're making. It's an important point. You know, all these things. That's why we need more discussions on the whole matter.
I can't help but agree with you, Mr. Boyd. I think it's an extremely important matter, and one which perhaps really should be the subject of the constitutional reform itself. In other words, as part of the bills that go forward to amend the constitution, this is an issue that perhaps should have been put on the table along with some of the other bills. You know, either in amending the constitution that will have to be amended, not just the referendum law, right? Because the constitution says two-thirds majority that perhaps should have been considered to the constitution rather than some wording about changing the attorney general to ensure that the general is an attorney and so on, which the constitution already says. It might have been useful to give some consideration to something like that. But this is precisely the point. You know, do we simply barge ahead, or do we look at some of these finer issues that can have much more significant consequences for the efficiency and operation of our democracy? Or do we simply have our way because we have the power of the authority to do so?
How would you feel on the 28th of October if our voters here stopping the woman in there got passed because he didn't give leadership to people to vote a particular way? Because that's a danger. I mean, you see that's a danger.
Yeah, it is difficult to say how I will feel tomorrow, let alone October 20th. My feelings don't work so far in advance. You know, I have to say that I don't know. In the course of politics, in the course of leadership, not just in politics and management and leadership, what are you talking about? Cooperation of government. You're called to make difficult decisions. Sometimes you do so not absolutely sure how it's going to turn out, but you must be driven by the best interests of your constituents in everything that you do. On your conviction. Issue will be the judge.
Let's say you get the NDC was in power, right? And they having a constitutional reform. Will you have considered the bill that is there now in the interest of the people? Would you have changed it? Or if the people disagree with some of the bills that are there, would you have changed it? Would you have done anything to seek the interest of the people? If the NDC was in power now, given the rights to have this constitutional reform?
That is the essence of what we've been saying all along, that we don't believe that what is there is adequate, and the manner in which it was arrived at and is proper. So that is the basis on which we have been saying, find a better way to do this, that especially includes the participation of the people, so that when we change it, we create a genuine bond between the people and the Constitution. It is shameful when we think of it, that these numbers are surfacing, that 75% of the Canadian people don't understand what it's about. As bad as things are, when somebody in Canada or the United States, the police knows they have to follow certain procedure because the citizens understand the constitutional rights, the right of the police of the officers to search them, to get a warrant, the right to be told that they have a right to a lawyer. All of these are things that the people are taught, so they understand their rights. But I'm saying we have not done enough to educate the people, and that is why it is so important that we do so.
As against constitutional reform and the majority vote no, how long will it take to have another constitutional reform?
It depends on the will of the government. It depends on the will of the government of the day.
So if the NDC government do comes back in power, will they have a constitutional reform for the interest of the people?
So, again, without any equivocation. And I take the opportunity to invite you to a special event that you're going to have on September 22nd. Yeah, you will have the answer to your question in much greater detail.
Live TV, to get you free advertisement, we're going to do an unedited half-hour special with you in your first day. Lawyer, what about one thing?
Who will be doing it?
We can
Which media outfit will be doing it?
sorry about me. And we can decide who we want to interview. I don't have a problem with that. We can decide who we want to interview, even feel comfortable. So I don't have a problem with that.
Well, yes,
But
you know, we can talk about that. I'm not opposed to answering questions. Yeah, no problem.
It has already been said that the party supports the call by Secretary for the no votes.
I'm sorry?
If I'm rephrasing it wrong. All right. But in essence, Senator is called for the no votes, given the reasons why he's calling for the no votes regarding the pension issue that is not being addressed.
Well, I think what we have just presented to you is the party's position on the constitutional reform. So we understand why some people feel the way they feel. We understand why some people are calling for the no vote. We have expressed in here the statement as well. We understand where people are coming from because they feel cheated. But as a political party, what we presented to you today is our official position. This is perhaps the fourth way that you have tried to say that. I know that you want a different answer perhaps.
Well,
But,
actually,
that is the reality, that is the truth. We want to keep it official position. This is really what we feel. And, you know, the executive of the party met last Tuesday afternoon. It's not an easy decision because there are all kinds of considerations. And today, after honest reflection, we came to the view.
All right. The next part of my question is, right? Given that we were supporting the efforts being made by Senator Gray, in your opinion, I don't know if you're able to answer this question, but if let's say the government was to consider that change, right, regarding the pensions in the Constitution, do you think that they are to honor that commitment? We're on the SAM and this sort of thing. Do you think that they would have enough money to pay all the civil servants their pensions? Would that create another issue? Wouldn't that create another issue?
I mean, I understand the question, but I don't think you're being sensible. You know, the other minister of finance, the man who's pulling the bag, and you come in and ask me this. That's not true.
I just wanted your opinion.
One question though, representative on the crack. Have you ever really consulted and given your position so that it can be reflected? And what has the media done to influence these bills, bearing in mind that you are represented on the crack?
It's a very interesting question because as far as I know, on crack, aware that a constituent representative consulted us what is happening. However, what I also do know is that in the interest of the media, an attempt was made to assist the media in understanding the bill. And I believe that it went a long way in the process. But to answer the question that you talk about, what was done, our representative on crack. I don't
think that's our first statement actually. There are a few sessions. I never went, so I can't conclude. But there are a few sessions. If I go my program.
Yeah.
Thank you very much to all of you. The media, thank you for your questions. I mean, as challenging as they were, you know, we're here to answer them. And we look forward to seeing you on Monday as we continue. Don't forget, 2nd of September at the Trade Center.
Not a single member here given their little plug in. Waiting for a plug for Thursday.
Thursday, we're launching our policy agenda at the Trade Center at 6:30 in the evening.
My little plug in the news.
Give me one fun from the speech.
John. Yes.
Almost 2 years of consultation with party members, party supporters, local as well as media forum. The main vision of the